Howdy y'all, welcome back to Maverick Mods. This week, slowing down just a little bit. My family and I are going to take a much needed kind of mini vacation here at the end of the week. So going to do something light for you, or at least lighter than last week. So I looked around the shop to try and find a project that was fairly quick, fairly easy to do. Wouldn't take up a whole lot of my time, and more importantly, wouldn't take up a whole lot of your time. So decided, you know, maybe it's time to look at the bumper on the rear bumper, I should say, on the Firebird. I'm not entirely certain that the bumper that we got with the Firebird is actually the original bumper. If you guys remember from a few episodes back, pretty sure this car got smacked in the right rear fairly hard. A lot of work to the quarter, a lot of work to the taillight panel, a lot of work to the valence underneath. And chances are that the bumper got replaced. There's some writing on the inside that kind of leads me to believe that this bumper might have been a junkyard bumper. So it doesn't matter, it's neither here nor there. It's still essentially a basic, you know, factory Firebird bumper, which means it doesn't fit very well, and after 50 years, it doesn't look very good either. I'm not worried about the chrome. We're not going to re-chrome it. My intent was always to paint the bumper. And because of that, that actually frees me up to do quite a few things that maybe you wouldn't think to do if you're going to keep the original chrome. So I'm going to section the bumper, and in the video you'll see why I'm going to do it. And I'm also going to shave the bumper bolts, just to kind of clean up the appearance just a little bit. So strap in, grab some popcorn, let's get started. One of the approximately 4 million things to be done to complete this car is to mount the rear bumper. I'm going to go one step farther than that, and I'll show you. Well, there's two things I need to do. First is I need to align the rear bumper, and by my eyeball, I have not actually gone out and measured it yet, but by my eyeball, I think the bumper, I've just got it in by a couple of bolts, but I think the bumper is shifted a little bit to the right. And the reason for that is, if we look at the bumper brackets themselves, this one's pretty straight, that one's pretty straight, that one's straight, sort of, but this one, well, that's off just a hair, and that's shifting this whole bumper over. So I need to pull this off, straighten this bracket out, and stick the bumper back on. Let me do that right quick, and then we'll take a look at the second part of what I want to do to this bumper. With the bumper on the table, you can definitely tell that bracket, it's bent just a little bit. I'll pull this bracket off real quick, stick it in the vise, get it back to straight, put everything back together and see what it looks like. Alright, so it looks, I think it's a little bit straighter. Let me stick it back on. We'll mount her back up, see how I did. Let's just take some basic measurements. I'm not quite sure where to measure to and from. I'm just going to try a few. Just so you know, I still have not found my little grain tape measure. That's a little off, so it's actually too far that way. Try it again. Still off a little bit. So if we look at our bumper ends, I obviously have not bolted it up. And I mean, it'll come up a little bit here because it's a little bit wobbly, only because I don't have the bolts tight here. But if you notice, I've got a little bit of a gap there that the bolts are supposed to basically take up. And on this side, I pretty much have just about the same gap. And I mean, this is, you know, this was done back in the day. The bumpers were just stamped steel, you know, it's just the way it is. It's tolerances. And I don't like that much of a bumper gap, even though when I put the bolts in, it's going to bring it back a little bit. But there's just too much gap in there for that bumper. To top it off, this bumper has a feature that back in the day was necessary, but now serves no function whatsoever. This little slot right here used to be for a bumper jack. I think those slots for the bumper jacks can go away. And I think I can take care of two birds with one stone. If I take and I section this bumper right along here, I can pull this gap in, and I can pull this bumper aside in tight to the body. So basically I can do it to both sides. I'll take some measurements to see just how far I can pull that in. One of the things I will have to do is I'll have to modify the bracket a little bit in here, because the bracket won't let me take it that far. But I think that might be a neat little kind of small, most people won't notice, but I will. Nice little addition to the car. Another thing I'll do while I'm in the process of cleaning this bumper up, if you guys will notice, this is a relatively rough stamping. I mean, these bumpers are basically just smashed through a big stamping press, and they're pretty uneven, pretty rough on the edges. I mean, they probably clean them up a little bit at the factory before they chrome them, but not much. I mean, you can tell this right here has had a little bit of work before it got chromed, but it's still pretty rough. So this will give me an opportunity to clean all of this up as well. First thing I need to do, make my cut here. I can do this pretty much in any order. It's better to actually get an exact 90 degree from the bumper. Unfortunately, with the shape we have, may or may not be possible, but what's really important to keep your bumper alignment is that your first tape mark and your second tape mark are exactly parallel to each other, and that will help keep the bumper alignment right where it needs to be. So let's get started. I'm going to take this right on the edge. I'm kind of eyeballing this. That tape's got a little bit of a wrinkle in it, so I'm going to start over. I don't like that. Don't be afraid if you don't get it right the first time. Take your time, because the end result will be worth it. Okay, so there's my first tape line. I'm going to start just by removing this slot so that I can butt the two pieces back together. The reason I'm doing that, even though I need to take a little bit more than this, I can always take a little bit of extra material off just by retaping the line and recutting it or regrinding it down to that line to make everything fit. Now what did that give me? Let me just take a measurement here. That's good. So I'm even there. I can tell just by my eyeball that I'm not down here though. There we go. Okay. So I've got my first cut lines. I'll go ahead and replicate that on the other side, and let's make some cuts. Next, I'll cut the inner line. And repeat the process on this side. Now I'll take a grinding wheel, dress my edges. That's why I left the tape on there. Once I got all my grinding done, I can always check my fit just by butting the two ends together. I mean, obviously, when it's not on the, oh, a little extra metal there. When it's not on the car, all this is just making sure my cut lines are straight, but it butts up really nice. Feels good. With my newly sectioned center bumper section reinstalled and OCD aligned, that's my OCD alignment. Everything is where it needs to be. So let's grab the outer bumper section and see what just cutting the slots out gave me. So that's, well, I'm just by holding it up by hand pretty good. And I'm basically right there. So that's essentially factory alignment, actually better than factory alignment. I still need to trim a little bit down at the down here, just because it's the stamping wasn't all that great, but that brought it in really nice. Brings my bumper minus the bumper jack slot right where it needs to be. I'm pretty happy with that. I checked the other side. The other side is just exactly the same. The one thing I am going to have to alter just a little bit, inside of this bracket here uses J-nuts. That throws an extra, whatever it is, 32nd, 16th, 32nd of an inch thickness. So I'm going to weld nuts to the back side of this bracket so that when the bolts come through here, I don't have the J-nut in here. I've got plenty of alignment in these slots as well, so not worried about that. All looks good. I welded the nuts on the back side, the inside portion of the side bumper bracket, I guess you could call it here. I've got it bolted in and centered in the holes in the quarter itself, so that's secure. I figured the best way, instead of trying to bolt, shave, etc., all of the brackets on the side of the bumper here, I'm just going to weld it. So I'm going to get it in position here, and I'm going to tack up inside of here just enough to hold that bracket, so when I take it back apart, then I can finish weld it. And while I'm at it, I'm going to go and line everything up. I'm hoping my little baby magnets here will hold this well enough to hold it in place. We're going to try it and see. Okay. Nope, not strong enough. All right, so the idea is here, I'm going to hold my bumper in position. I've already got the edges beveled. I'm going to hold this, hit a couple of tacks, and get this positioned. Then I can weld this part. Okay, my alignment is good. Edges feel good. I'm going to hit a couple of tacks. Check and make sure nothing moved. Okay, that's good. I hit another one. Good. That's good. All right, now I'm going to get this part right here. Now let's see how it is before I go too far. Just make sure it didn't screw up. Okay, my alignment this way is good. Still good there. I'm going to put a couple of more tacks here just to hold it. We'll do the other side and then we'll pull the bumper back off. I've got my bracket, my side bracket tacked on the back side. I do need to hit the inside just to hold this bracket. I don't need to go the entire perimeter, but I do need to do more than just a couple of tack welds to hold this bracket permanently. Let's do that. I'll go along the bottom a little bit here. I think that's enough to hold that bracket. Before I get too all fired up involved in welding up my cut seam or from sectioning the bumper, I've got to deal with the bumper brackets themselves. I decided on the end brackets it was easier and better, since I'm going to shave the bolts anyway, it was easier and better to weld the brackets on. I'm going to do the same thing with the I guess the rear brackets. Well, I missed that one. We'll try a little bit better angle here. So with my brackets welded up, what I've got to do now fill in some holes. I can do it one of two ways. I could do it the quick and dirty way, where I just basically take the MIG and just start filling in the edge, working back. It's kind of ugly. Or I can just cut a couple of little squares that'll fit in there and just to fill in the hole. I think I'm going to do that. So let me cut some squares and we'll fill in the holes up here. I cut myself a little plug here. You can see it on the end of my magnet. Nothing special, just was about a 3/8 by 3/8 piece of steel. I'm going to stick it in my hole here. It does not have to be perfect. And it's not by any stretch of the imagination. All I got to do is just be able to tack it in one spot and pull the magnet off, hit the rest of the perimeter. Well, disaster has struck. Mini disaster. I ran out of shielding gas on the MIG. Too lazy and got way too many things to do today to go get more. However, I do have another welder. That's my TIG welder. The reason you haven't seen me use it very often is, well, frankly, I'm not very good at it. I did, however, get some lessons the other day where somebody very kindly and yet very firmly showed me what I was doing wrong. And so you guys are going to get to see me on kind of my first TIG attempt since getting schooled. And so come along for the ride. Might be good for a few laughs. And just so you know, I'm almost out of gas for the TIG too, so this might not last very long. Stand by, goobered up my tip. Okay. All the internet welding experts, have at it. So I've never said my TIG skills were good. It was adequate. I know what I'm doing wrong. It just takes practice. I don't get to practice very often. So I sent a friend over to the welding supply store. He's going to get me a bottle of gas for the MIG so I can finish this up. I got in a hurry and just flat forgot to show me welding the seam where I sectioned the bumper. But I've got everything welded up here that was remaining. Let me go ahead and grind these off. I'll put the bumper back on and let's take a final look at what it looks like installed. The bumper's back on, obviously temporarily. Got all the modifications done. I've still got some cleanup to do yet. And obviously, of course, we've got, you know, old bumper rot and rash to clean up and prep and get ready for paint. But the majority's done. My bumper jack holes are gone. My bumper bolts are shaved. And I've got everything tucked up as tight as I want it. I could go, you know, a little bit more, but it's tucked up where I want it. I've still got some final shaping to do on the edges. A little bit more cleanup on the edges. But essentially, there it is. That's going to do it for this week, guys. A little shorter video for you, a little shorter video for me. Hopefully a long, restful weekend ahead. I'll let you know next week if it really was restful or not. That having been said, certainly appreciate everybody watching. Big thanks to all of you guys for tuning in. Please like, share, and subscribe. It really does help me out. Everybody, have a great day.